Iguodala. Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good. Kyrie Irving from downtown. The three, step back, crossover, puts up a three. Rebound James. Second. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
Cleveland! This is for you!
Good day, Cavs fans, and welcome into a bonus episode of the Block the Shot to Stop. Decided to do an extra one this week because we got our buddy Will Weir here from Green with Envy. We want to do a little Celtics Cavs podcast, find out a little bit about what's going on with the Celtics this season, and, you know, go a little bit back and forth about how they match up, and not only in this game, but you never know. We speculated there'd be a playoff matchup last year. Maybe this is the year. But first of all, Will, thanks for joining, bud.
Yeah, man, happy to do it. A little home and home. You joined us last night on our podcast after we got the crap kicked out of us out of the Hornets. So it was nice to have an alternative to go to instead of just lingering on that game. So fun having you on our show, and I'm glad to reciprocate here.
Yeah. Not the Celtics' best game, but they've certainly been. It's very weird to say the Boston Celtics have been maybe the surprise team of the NBA, or at least until the Hornets have come on recently. And we'll get into all that. Before we do, Skylar, how are we doing this evening?
Doing great. I'm excited to talk with Will and get into this. I don't know, not budding, but it seems like we're talking Celtics all the time. Anytime the Cavs are in the playoffs, the Celtics are there, and it's probably just because the Celtics are perpetually there.
No, very true. So, Will, I'm going to start with a real general question that you can just go as long as you want with, because I've become very interested in the Celtics really around the New Year mark. And I was saying this on your show last night, because around that 30-game mark, like, you start thinking, like, what's for real in the NBA? Because people, I mean, the Bulls started out like 9-1, right? Now they're like one of the worst teams in the league. So I don't trust anything until about the 30-game mark. But Boston, solidly in the number 2 spot in the East, well documented without Jayson Tatum all year, although that could be changing within a matter of hours at this point.
Baby.
Yeah. How has the Celtics done it this year? I mean, obviously Jaylon Brown, all NBA player, and it's kind of been a little bit, it seems to me like a little bit of, like, you know, contributing by committee and everything. But I want to hear from you, like, how have the Celtics kind of managed to have this successful of a season without one of the best players in the league?
I mean, honestly, man, it's taken us a while to kind of figure out how this success has been happening. Like, if we're just being real honest about it, you know, just like part of it is, you know, based on our expectations going into the season, like you mentioned. And I think for our show, and you could find green teamers, like we call them out there, that were like, nah, we're still the team to beat. It's like, all right, let's pump the brakes a little bit. And, you know, you had other people who were, you know, fully into, this is the season to, let's go get AJ DeBance. He's a local kid from Brockton, Mass. So it's like, let's go Darren Peterson, Cameron Booth, a whole bunch of guys. They're like, perfect season to kind of do what the Pacers ended up doing, which, to be fair, the Pacers are only doing that because they had so many injuries. Right. And that's kind of one of the secret sauces for the Celtics, is they've had a pristine record with injury. I'm knocking on wood right now as we're recording, because that is part of it, right? Like, the Pacers are, I think, a competitive team that still play hard. They just don't have the bodies, right? Like, so that could have been our side of it. But, you know, for the Celtics going into the season, I think for myself and my co-host Greg and our show Green with Envy, like, we were kind of like, you know, if everything breaks right, we could be in that 5-6 because the East isn't that intimidating. But in reality, we're probably somewhere in that 7 to 10 range. And if we end up being closer to 10, then maybe 50-60 game mark, we're like, is it really worth being the 10 seed? Let's just get in the lottery and hope we pull a Dallas, right? So that was kind of where we were at going into the season. Now, what we didn't count on, and things that were question marks, a lot of these question marks turned into the utmost, like, positive result that we could have ever thought about. So there were a couple things that we thought about, and this was originally pie in the sky of, like, us being a 5-6 seed. Was Joe Mazzula's got to prove that he is a legitimate coach, and I don't want to say legitimate, not that he had a lot of success, but he had a lot of talent. He has never had a team in which he got to, and we're really seeing, and I've been just blown away by Joe Mazzula this season and the coaching job that he's done. Likely the coach of the year, I think, at least at this point right now. And we never really had a chance to see how he works with developing players, because he came in during the whole Ime Udoka situation. We were coming off of finals. We had a team that was built to win. They, the next year, after losing in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals, went out and got KP and Holiday. You guys know how that went for the next 2 years. And really, when that started to break down last year against the Knicks, like, Mazzula had the lowest point of his Celtics tenure. He was bad in that series against the Knicks, like outside of some of the other things that were happening. Like Mazzula, in my opinion, did not have a great coaching series, so he was a massive question mark. The front court was a massive question mark. No KP, no Al Horford, no Luke Cornett. All three of our guys gone. Neemias Queta, who got spot minutes. Luka Garza on a bargain basement deal. Xavier Tillman was hanging around. Chris Boucher. Those guys, last two guys, aren't even with the team anymore.
Right.
So it's like, I don't know what to get. And like with Neemi Queta, we knew there was raw potential, but honestly, he's been a revelation. He's become a guy that I'm now preaching on every show. Brad Stevens, priority number one this offseason, sign this man. Get this man on the Sam Hauser, Peyton Pritchard special. We need $8 to $12 million for the next 3 to 4 years. That's what we need to do. So that happened. Weren't expecting that. The other part is, Jaylen Brown is like, Jaylen Brown is what are we going to get? And we're getting his Scottie Pippen 1994 season, and maybe even better than that 1994 season, because he's somewhere in that 2, 3, 4 range of MVP. Feels like a first team All NBA. And, even for someone like me that's watched him his entire career, he's gone to a level that I didn't think he would get to. And I think you look at him now and he's a bona fide 1A type of guy, or not even 1A. He's a number one type of guy, right? We used to think of him as a 1A or one of the best number twos in the league. So you combine that and going back to the first point, which is Mazzula, and it's the ethos that he installs in this team, which is you play hard or you don't play. And I think that's where you get to the other guys around those, the Peyton Pritchard, Derek White, and specifically this young group of wings that have, for me, they've been the biggest surprise because I had zero expectations. And these guys are making contributions every night. And it's all based around Joe Mazzula pushing the right buttons, playing hard. And of course, he's just taking what he's done his entire time coaching, win on the margins. But he's getting a chance to install that with a young team that is playing off of him. And it's been really cool to just watch Joe Mazzula's personality and coaching styles really take over. And, the questions I had about him going into the season, when you see what he's doing with this roster, questions are basically answered. Now with Tatum coming back, that talent level starts to get to a different area. And of course, back from an injury, so we got to pump the brakes. But now we'll get to see where it can really go, whether it's this year or next year. And I don't know if that answered how we're doing it, because a little bit of it is still a mystery, but that's some of the takeaways that we've made.
No, I mean, you're right. When you have stuff like this, a lot of things have to go right. And the Cavs saw that last year and some of it this year. You mentioned like the wings, and I know you're referring to Jordan Walsh, Hugo Gonzalez, Baylor Shireman, and some of that is really good scouting, drafting, signing, whatever, and coaching and development. But some of it is just plain luck, right? To get guys like, the Cavs have some examples of that as well. Jalen Tyson being the number one, or even like signing Sam Merrill to a 10-day a couple of years ago, and now he's one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. So definitely get a little bit of luck. I'm going to ask one more question, then I'll turn it to Skylar. We're a Cavs show. We're going to get into all the Celtics stuff, but I do like when we have guests on from other teams and everything. Like, now you're not watching the Cavs every night as intently as we are, but from what you've seen and everything, what are your kind of opinions? Or I know you asked me some questions about the Cavs last year, but I kind of like to see what you've seen from afar of the Cavs.
Yeah, I mean, the Cavs are so interesting, man. And I'll be honest, from a distance, I feel like I've been burned by them. So I've been very reluctant to buy into the Cavaliers, and especially where up until, and you guys can tell me, like a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago, it was kind of well below what the expectations were, because I think by the time you guys got knocked out by the Pacers last year, and of course there were injuries, different reasons that you can look at, and honestly, the Pacers were just really freaking good. Like, I think they were just underrated, and we can attest to that from the year before in the conference finals when we won a championship. That was the hardest series that we played. So there's a lot of different things of why the Cavs were eliminated last year, but I do think residually from that, it had a lot. It was difficult to buy in. And at the time I was like, all right, they're going to blow it up. It's time to do something drastic. And then Tatum goes down, and then Halliburton goes down. And it's like, well, they did win 64 games. They probably should just run it back because it seems like this conference is set up for Cavs Knicks. And so it felt like, listen, they kind of fell backwards into running it back is easily the best option right now, given the landscape, and then you'll figure it out. And it didn't go as smooth as you think it would for the team that should have more continuity than a lot of the rest of the conference, right? Like, this team is no longer patched together. Like, it's no longer like Mobley and, before Garland got traded, like, they're young, but they're not young guys that you can kind of give them that pass anymore. It's like, you guys are all stars. You're the defensive player of the year. Jared Allen, like, you guys got to find a way to make this work, and the synergy should be there. So, early on in the season, I kind of honestly didn't watch a lot of the Cavs. I was like, I know about them. I'll see in the playoffs. And when you guys were losing more games and it felt like 500, I was like, okay, I guess I'm kind of justified in not tuning in. And over the last month or two, I have caught a little bit more Cavaliers basketball, and I've been a little bit more intrigued, especially since the James Harden trade, because to me that was, and you can couple the DeAndre Hunter move in there as well, because Kevin, you and I talked about it on my show. I thought last year that was the move. I thought he was the connective tissue that you guys have been missing, and I was like, okay, I got to take them more seriously. Clearly did not work out. But
it did not.
I think some of the moves that you guys have pivoted to do make you interesting, and I'm still kind of figuring it out. I did watch a lot of the Pistons Cavs games from earlier this week, and I thought that was an extremely impressive win. Jared Allen leaving early, no Donovan Mitchell, although shouts to his t-shirt in that game. That t-shirt he had in the bench.
That was awesome.
That was a sick t-shirt. I wanted to bring that up last night. I thought that was an unbelievable t-shirt. But watching that game, it made me definitely rethink the Cavaliers, because not having Donovan Mitchell against a team that was now at full strength, the suspensions are over, like it was the full strength Pistons, and the defense that they possess, and having the ability to still kind of go at them. And we're going to talk about the Cavs roster. I think Jaylen Tyson is the guy that, might be the missing piece. He might be what I thought DeAndre Hunter was going to be last yeyear. And so right now I'm still figuring it out, which is why I was happy to have you on our show, Kevin, because I still want to watch more, because I'm still a little uncertain that James Harden is going to be the guy that comes in and cracks the code for you guys, because, history isn't on the side of that being the correct.
We're aware.
At the same time, at the same time, I think it's the right move, though. I think trading him for Garland was the right move for this year, maybe next year, and you just can't bank on Garland's health right now. So I'm kind of giving you a somewhat long-winded answer, which is my forte, as you guys will learn here, of saying TBD, but very impressed with your latest run, and your last win makes me really excited to see what this could look like come Sunday afternoon against Celtics.
Nice. Skyler?
Yeah, I think, even seeing what this Cavs team is now, it's the fabric of this team is a lot different in the various moves that they have made. One thing that we've all felt, and I think the national media has also kind of picked up, is that this team felt soft. They were just a bunch of nice guys last year, and that's not the team anymore. We have a lot of guys that will get up in your face and put real defensive pressure on you. And Jaylen Tyson, Dennis Schroeder, Keon Ellis, just to name a few, but like a lot of guys that they'll pick you up full court every single possession. And be the little dog, bark a little bit. And a lot of
for the record, real quick, just on Dennis Schroeder, Celtics fans despise the half season that we had with Dennis Schroeder. I am not one of them. I actually like Dennis Schroeder. I think Ime actually misused him, which is part of the reason that Celtics fan didn't like him. But Skylar, for all the reasons that you're mentioning, I like Dennis Schroeder. I think he's a great guy to have in your back pocket offensively if you need a little juice. Now, be careful. Don't leave him out there for too long. He'll get, a little bit big for his britches. But I think you guys have enough star power that he's in the right spot. And, for everything you're saying, I think Dennis Schroeder is a great, pretty underrated pickup for you guys.
Yeah, for sure.
The Kings are so dumb, as Kevin likes to say.
No, I have a bit on here, Will, that like if I was an NBA GM, I would exclusively trade with like the 5 dumbest teams in the NBA and do nothing. I'd do nothing else. Try and draft well, and then just trade. I would call the Kings, the Pelicans, the Bulls, the Wizards. I would just call them on speed dial all day long.
Hey, I actually like what the Wizards did at the trade deadline. I don't want to take us down that road, but I think they maybe they're turning a corner, but I agree with everything else.
Yeah. All right. So going back to the Celtics, I think before we get into the Tatum stuff, I think we should start with Jaylen Brown, because you touched on it. Like, unbelievable. He's been an all-star level player, as you said, maybe the best second guy on a team in the NBA, but there's a long way from that to first team all NBA guy, and a guy who is frankly carrying a little bit of an undermanned roster to the number 2 seed in their conference. Like, what? Obviously, Jaylen took it as a challenge this offseason. I think you can see that from the beginning. And he wants everyone to know the success that he's having this year, too. He's been pretty vocal about that. Is there anything specific about his game that is different that is causing for this kind of enhanced level of success?
Yeah, Jaylen Brown, the best two-way player in the world, if you ask him. So with Jaylen, it's interesting, right? Because we knew, given the surrounding team, like, he was going to need to shoot the ball more. He was going to need to be more aggressive offensively. And actually, going back to the first 3 games of the year, which the Celtics lost, and I think Greg and I had to delete those podcasts because they look so dumb right now. All of the things that we said after that,
we got a few
season, and it's so funny thinking back on it now. And in the first, I think it was at least the first 2 games, Jaylon, I think, was trying to do a little bit of a Jayson Tatum impression, and Tatum's a better creator playmaker than he is, right? And part of that is Tatum was allowed to be because he had Kristaps Porzingis, he had Drew Holiday, he had Jaylen Brown, he had all these guys around him, even Malcolm Brogdon, like going back a few years, right? You had all these guys that you could be playmakers too, and we saw the first couple of games where we're like, Jaylen, you got to go get 30 every night. Like, that has to be like imperative goal number 1 is go get 30. And some of Jaylen's success has been a combo of him and Mazzula. And Mazzula, it's funny because Mazzula's always thought of, if you talk to other fan base, he's just a guy that likes to shoot threes. And there's so much more to it than just jacking up threes. That's what you see if you just go look at a box score, or even, it really bothers me when you hear like national broadcast, they're like, here come the threes again. It's like, it certainly is a part of winning the math, but it's a lot more into how they get them, when they get them, why they shoot them. And something that I think would be definitely unexpected is that Mazzula has allowed Jaylen Brown to lean into an element of his game that is typically frowned upon in NBA circles, and that's getting to the mid-range. That's getting to the mid-post and he's been an unbelievable mid-range shooter. He's been DeMar DeRozan, Kawhi Leonard level type of mid-range scorer this year. And so for him getting to kind of live in the space that he's so comfortable in, and it's funny because now as Tatum's coming back, one of the things that we're wondering is something I've always really wanted out of Tatum is, can we turn those 10 threes into 7 and you make those other 3 either in the mid-range or driving to the basket? Because something always good happens when Jayson Tatum goes to the basket. And so we have been wondering, like, I wonder if he'll see the success Jaylen Brown has had and maybe add a little bit of that into his game. So I think that's one thing that has just really opened up, Jaylen Brown from an offensive standpoint, is just being able to lean into an area that, Joe Mazzula has encouraged him to do, despite, the way everyone views it. And that's one of the beauties of Joe Mazzula is he does not hear any of the noise outside. He's so focused on what is happening between the walls of the Celtics practice arena and their, in the arena that they play in, whatever arena that they're in each night. So I think that's a big part of it. And, another part is just Jaylen Brown just surprises you every time. Jaylen Brown has constantly been doubted. We've put ceilings on him year after year. This is it. Cool. He added this. Okay, that's got to be it. We've done it 6 times, and he just keeps proving there's another level that he goes to. And so I think that, is just a part of his mental makeup, and he's just one of, I think, the strongest guys mentally in this game. And he's talked about the moments that he's been weak, where it was specifically on one of his streams a couple weeks ago. He mentioned how, and this was after the Pats got blown out, and he was kind of referencing it against Drake May and, how bad of a performance he had. And he talked about how Game 7 3 years ago now against the Heat, when Celtics tried to come back from down 3-0, Tatum rolls his ankle on the first offensive possession of the game. And he talked about how Tatum came over to him and was like, dude, my ankle's cooked. Like, whatever you got, I need it. And Jaylon in his mind was like, I was ready to step up, but I was so ready to step up that I didn't know how to do it. And I could barely dribble. I put so much pressure on myself. And that narrative of that game has really stunk on him for a while, right? Up until basically winning, conference final MVP and NBA finals MVP. And now what the season that he's having, but it was like, oh, he can't dribble. See his left hand. Look at Game 7. Look at what happens when he tries to be the man. And so I think, honestly, a lot of this is just the mental strength of Jaylen Brown and him really stepping up to kind of lead by example and be a guy that's willing to play almost every game and take on the challenge of guarding the other player's best defender. And it's just truly remarkable to see the developments in him overall.
For sure.
Yeah, I want to swing it back to Joe Mazzula and ask, what's your favorite Joe Mazzula quote? Because he had my favorite one today, whereas I go to bed questionable and wake up probable.
I got it right. I got it right here. They asked him about Tatum coming back. So I actually pulled it up because I wanted to use this today. When Kevin asked me about it, and it was they asked him, will Jayson Tatum return in March? He said, I might not be alive. I go to bed questionable. I wake up probable, which is kind of a bar. So
it is such a bar, especially for a dad in his 30s. Like I felt that to my core.
And it's the truth. It's the truth, man. Go to bed questionable, wake up probable. That's up there, man. We actually have I think it's either on our Instagram page or somewhere. We have a whole cut of all the different Joe Mazzula quotes that have come out over the years. Honestly, that's a new one that we need to add in there. That's up there for me. Off the top of my head, there's definitely some that I'm missing, but during Joe Mazzula's first year, and again, I brought this up the other day, one of the craziest facts is Joe Mazzula is still the youngest coach in the NBA.
Yeah.
This is his fourth year. He's still the youngest coach in the NBA. He's 37 years old. I'm 36 years old. Like we're the same age. Like it's pretty insane. And so the first year, we talked a lot about trying to figure out this guy, and he felt very robotic. Like, and to be fair, even he admitted like he didn't know what he was doing. He was kind of faking it, and it was like this. It was very inauthentic, and you could tell. In year 2 on, he's been much more authentic, and that's just as fascinating, actually even more fascinating than him doing his robotic impression. But I think he tried to break it. I'm pretty sure this was his first year, and he's what was it? The English royal family was at the game for the Celtics, and they were asking him, so what do you think about the royal family being here tonight? And his response was, I didn't know Mary and Joseph were here. So it was just like a really dumb joke. It was stupid. He's very religious too, so it plays into it, and like it was just crickets when he made it. But that was still, to me, him, like, especially when he was trying to break out a personality. I thought it was really interesting for that to be his early attempt at showcasing a personality.
Yeah, my favorite. It's not a direct quote. It's a story that Blake Griffin told, and you very well might be aware of this, Will. But he talked about the first time he met Joe Mazzula is he just got signed by the Celtics, or first time he met him maybe after he got signed. And he goes to like the practice facility, is like getting his stuff, and then they said Joe's in the back, so he goes to the back and he hears all this like racket as he's walking back there. Walks in. And Joe's sitting there doing nujitsu with his turns around.
He's got his like sensei.
Yeah. He's like, hey Blake, how you doing? This is my sensei. As soon as I get done kicking his ass, I'll go meet you in the gym. and that's how he met his new coach. Was he introducing him to a sensei? I just thought that was hysterical.
Yeah.
So I do want to ask you about Tatum, and I know you talked about the impending return a ton. So I'm going to ask it in a little bit different way. Like, I guess, what are your expectations for Tatum, and if he is he going to be comfortable being the second banana Jaylen Brown like he was for him for so many years, or is your expectation he's coming back because he's ready to go full throttle, play 12 to 15 of these last regular season games and then be Jayson Tatum in the playoffs?
Yeah, it's really interesting, man. And it's so funny watching the discourse, because I think you have two extremes. One where it's like, this is Jaylen Brown's team now. How's Jayson Tatum going to respond? They're gonna break up again, which of course everyone's been trying to break them up for years. And then you have like this other side that's like, Jaylen Brown needs to defer to Jayson Tatum, and it's and to be all honest, we don't know what Jayson Tatum's going to look like. Like, this injury is really tricky to come back from. So I think how Jayson Tatum looks, and not even just how he looks, but how he reacts mentally, like not even before, but once he's out there, I think will dictate a lot. And here's the thing, both sides of those extremes have a little bit of truth to it. Sure. And the team that he's coming back to is different in the sense that Jaylen Brown has gone to that other level, and he's having an MVP type season. So my expectation for him is listen, it's not adding Jayson Tatum is not going to be a bad thing. And I think this is one of the beauties of Jayson Tatum, is that his superstar power is that he is average to above average at every single thing that you need on a basketball court. Like, there is nothing that he really does below average. So whether he's taking some minutes from Baylor Shireman and he's a spot up shooter at times, or if he's helping out with the ball handling deficiency, which is still a gap on this team, and that was kind of built in to the Anthony Simons for Vucevic trade, is that, hey, if Tatum comes back, he's going to fill a lot of that scoring and ball handling that Simons was able to assist with. That's also going to come back to Tatum. So now when Jaylen Brown's out, you can still have a Tatum, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard group, or at least two out of those three that are out there to handle the ball, because it gets real slim real quick with this team. So I think for Tatum, it's probably going to be, at least initially, a little bit of fitting in while kind of warming back up. And he's going to get some moments with Jaylen Brown off the court to just test out what does it feel like to just be Jayson Tatum running the show again. But at the end of the day, these guys have played together for so long. Like, it's going on in close to a decade. I think it's year 10 for Jaylon, it's year 9 for Tatum, somewhere to that effect. So these guys know each other extremely well. So I think people are forgetting that these guys are, this is all they know from an NBA perspective is playing with each other. So while Jaylen Brown has been the guy that's gotten these last 55, 60 games to play without him, it's not going to be that foreign of a concept. So I think initially it will be Tatum easing his way back in, taking some kind of, superstar role player moments. But I think as we get towards the playoffs, we're going to have to test it out a little bit and see what does it look like. Can Tatum come back in and take over at a certain moment? And something I think people don't think about a lot is, when this was quote unquote Tatum's team, it wasn't like end of a game, we just go to Tatum. Jaylen Brown also has the ball in his hands a ton at the end of games. You think about that championship run and game 1 Eastern Conference Finals, who hit the shot that the Pacers were supposed to steal game 1 at home? It's Jaylen Brown in the corner. It was a play that was designed for Jaylen Brown in the corner. So neither of these guys really have an ego that mind the other guy getting the shine at the end of the game. So I don't think it's going to be a, there's only a one ball type of problem. Yeah. So I think they're going to figure it out on the fly. I think a lot of it's going to be where JT is at physically and mentally. And then from there, they'll start to kind of shift and understand, like, hey, this is Jalen's time, this is Jason's time, or this is, something I've always really wanted them to try is let's run some stuff together. Let's run more actions together, whether it's pick and roll, pick and pop. Like, as Jalen's gotten more touches, he's got more comfortable with the ball. Tatum's always been a bit of a playmaker. Like, that's been a concept that I've wanted to see more of. Maybe we will now. And so it will be interesting to see how it all plays out, but I don't have a ton of worry that it's going to go poorly. I'll just say that.
Okay. No, I think that's completely reasonable. Skylar, I actually got one quick question for you. Then we'll go to our last roundtable question. What is Max Strus's real injury that Jayson Tatum will to come back from a torn Achilles before Max Strus could play this year?
I think we need to put an APV out. I think Max Strus is dead. Something like,
what is it listed at every day on the
it's a Jones fracture of the foot, which is a fracture of the outside of the foot. Usually, so you get a Jones fracture in your hand or in your foot, usually by either punching or kicking something. So we've never gotten the full story of what exactly happened with Max, but it was one of those things. His expected return was November, and now we're in March. And they still don't have a timetable. So
they don't say anything about Max Strus. They don't talk about him. They don't put any status updates out.
I forgot he was on the team until I saw. I mean, I see him in his different hoodies and different hat on every night. Yeah,
he's got a great hoodie game. His hair looks incredible. But he has not been in a basketball jersey in a long time. Well, I gave you all a warning right before we started recording. I was going to do this usually on our Sunday night show. We say one nice thing on the internet, especially if we have a negative show. We like to put one positive thing into the world. In this case, because slightly switch that up, we're going to say one nice thing about each other's team or city. And Will, you're the guest. I'll let you go first. If you wouldn't mind, say one nice thing about the Cavaliers, the city of Cleveland, anything you got.
So I've never been to Cleveland. And at first I was like, man, what am I going to say? And I was about to type in best things about Cleveland and just see if it started giving me ideas. But I did come up with something before I got to searching that. And that's because I follow a lot of these accounts on Twitter that kind of give you retro clips or old school clips. And I'm outside of basketball, I'm a big baseball fan, big football fan. And so something I thought about is, what I really used to love with those 90s Indians teams. I love those 90s Indians. And of course, you guys brought me one of my favorites in Manny Ramirez. So that, obviously there's that connective tissue, the Pedro game, which I know hurt you guys, but that game 5 is one of there's there's a Mount Rushmore of Pedro moments, and that's on there for me. That's just unbelievable, peak moment for me of, I think it was 99, just unbelievable. And so, I don't want to bring up the painful much, we're staying positive here, but the 90s Indians were awesome, man. From Kenny Lofton to Tomey to Ramirez to Vizquel, David Justice, the Alomar brothers being there. That was a team that I remember. Again, not trying to bring up pain, but I was rooting for the Indians against the Marlins in that World Series because I just like their team. And so anytime it was like a non-Red Sox Indians thing, I was always like, this team mashes. This team is great. And I can't remember a single pitcher from their entire 90s run, but I remember just about everybody from that lineup. So shout out to the 90s Indians.
You're ingratiate yourself to my wife. Her all-time favorite athletes, Kenny Lofton. To this day,
he was the man. He was the absolute man.
Loves them. All right, Skylar, as hard as it may be for you, say one nice thing about Boston or the Celtics.
So I've never been to Boston, but it's been a city that's been on my kind of bucket list for quite a long time, because I love everything East Coast. I'm an East Coast kid, like through and through. And Cheers was one of my favorite shows ever, so would love to go down to the Cheers bar. But I'll stick it with the Celtics in that just the consummate contender. Doesn't matter who's on the roster. Doesn't matter if it's just Jaylon Brown and Vooch now. Like, just constantly, doesn't matter who's in there. Having a chance and having a feeling of a chance forever has to be an amazing feeling. It's a well-ran organization, well-ran front office. I know promoting Brad Stevens from head coach to president of president of basketball ops is
Will was talking baseball.
Yeah,
I know. I'm also a huge baseball kid, so it's just kind of like when you want a sports franchise, want to start a sports franchise, that's the framework that you want your franchise to be: a consummate contender. Doesn't matter who's on the roster, always having a chance.
Yeah, no, well said. I got a couple quick things. Like, first of all, Kevin Garnett's one of my favorite non-Cavs of all time. Love KG. I mean, while they're different personality types, that's the game that I would love Evan Mobley to start emulating, like same body types and everything.
I mean, he's been compared to him, right? Like, I mean, definitely the emotion that KG brings seems very different than the personality of Evan Mobley. But KG, I mean, he's a one of one, and he's the reason Greg and I do the show. Like, that 08 team changed. I always liked the Celtics. I love the Antoine Walker, Paul Pierce Celtics, but like the 08 Celtics took my brain from Red Sox, far and away the number one team that I love, to the Celtics from 08 to now 2026 have been, in the power position, in the power pole position.
He was an awesome player to watch. Just so passionate, so skilled. Loved watching KG play. A couple of things I will say, not trying to pander to Boston fans. I think Jayson Tatum did get a raw deal in the last Olympics. I think he should have gotten some more playing time. He seems like a perfect international player, and I hope he comes back in 28 because and I hope he's healthy and successful. Look, I want the Cavs to win, but I want the Cavs to win when they're playing other teams at their full strength. I hated seeing the playoffs last year as guy went down after a guy went down. Like, I love watching really great hoops, and usually hoops is greater when the stars are healthy and playing. And so I hope he comes back, and I hope he plays in the international team. I'm a huge international basketball fan. I think he's a perfect international player that for some reason got squeezed out by the older guys and by Kerr and everything. And last thing on a personal, unlike either of you, I have been to Boston a few times. The single best wedding I've ever been to was in the city of Boston. It was a Memorial Day weekend, like 15 years ago now. Friend of mine got married, and everyone that was going to the wedding was coming from out of town. They were both from Minnesota and Georgia. And so they had everyone in for the full holiday weekend, put on events like by Fenway downtown. And then they got married on an island off the coast of Boston. It was like just the sickest, like not only wedding, but like wedding weekend, and one of the better like weekend trips. And so shout out to John and Michelle Wasco, still if not top three. I should say top three, because I should include my own wedding in that. So top three wedding I've ever been to.
Well, you've got a very Boston name, Kevin Lynch.
It is.
Like honestly, I've seen your name on like a yard sign of somebody running for a congressional seat that I don't know about, like Kevin Lynch or District 72 or whatever it is.
I have no doubt. So, Will, thanks again for joining us, man. Always fun talking hoops. You guys have a great show. I know there's probably not a ton of crossover between Cavs and Celtics fans, but check them out. At least check them out after the game this Sunday when they'll give an honest review of how the game went and everything. And so, Skylar, thanks as always for joining. I'm Kevin Lynch. Check us out anywhere you get your podcast, YouTube, on our social medias. We appreciate all the love and the follows, and keep dropping those comments. I got a bunch I need to get back to, so I'm going to try and do that tonight. So for all of us here at the Block the Shot to Stop, thanks for tuning in. And as always,
go Cavs.